request to City Council, they request a recommendation from Planning Commission, just as the same as you provide a recommendation for a zoning change or a special exception request. So on the rare occasions that we get variances with Hahira, here we go. We talked about this one at length at the work session, but the variances are summarized down to two items. The first one is to section 5-6.1 of the Hahira Subdivision Regulations that pertain to lot frontage. Subdivision regulations require every new lot in the city have frontage of at least 60 feet onto a street, whether it be public street or private street. And then the second one is minimum lot width requirement. In highway commercial zoning, the minimum lot width is also 60 feet. The lot width in Hahira, and just like in Valdosta, is measured at the minimum prescribed or required setback line of the zoning district. In CH zoning, that minimum distance is 25 feet from the right-of-way line, so that's where you would measure it. This also is in the Gateway Corridor Overlay District, which has setback requirements that supersede the zoning district, and that distance is measured at 15 feet back from the right-of-way line. All those details are listed there in your packet, and on page 2 it gets into in the staff report where I've actually copied the text out of those various regulations. If you look in the handouts, tell you what, let's go through more about the property. Highway commercial is the zoning area of everything around exit 29. Aerial imagery, this is from a few years ago. This is before the Waffle House was built. And then as the views of the subject property, it's a vacant open land, a little more than 6 acres of land total. It's a developing commercial subdivision. The only thing that has been built currently is the Waffle House. The rest of it is pending subdivision plat approval, which is what has triggered this variance request. Looking to the east across Union Road, it's vacant property, and then everything else is still mostly vacant. Here you can see the Waffle House there in the distance to the left, and then looking southward back down Union Road as it bends around the corner, with the city limits further down on the left. In your packet are some conceptual site plans, and at the work session and again this evening, the hard copy, I gave you 11 by 17 two-sided. So we'll start with the colorful one. This is a conceptual site plan and proposed subdivision layout where the property lines are shown in red. As you see, the lots are numbered with approximate acreage. These are conceptual designs of site plans. These are not actual proposed site plans, other than perhaps tract number 6, which is the one in front, which is proposed to be a restaurant. That one's actually going through plan review right now, but the others are purely in concept, I think, for marketing purposes. The one that is triggering this is tract number 5. So as you look at the layout of these lots that are inscribed in red, tract number 7, which is a private road parcel that comes in off of Union Road to provide internal access into the other lots. And you see it touches all of the lots except for number 5 and number 3. Number 3 has frontage on Georgia 122, which is enough to meet the frontage requirements under the Hahira regs. However, it is in the control zone of the interchange, and probably more importantly, there's a lot of topography there, so it is physically blocked, and Georgia DOT blocked from having access onto 122. So it is physically landlocked that way, but would have secondary access through the commercial subdivision by easement. Tract number 5, that footprint there is planned to be a hotel. Again, it's a conceptual design. It has frontage, or proposed to have frontage, on Union Road that's only 50 feet wide, and that's where this variance request stems from. The requirements, both in terms of frontage and lot width, are 60 feet. They're proposing 50. If we flip to the other map, on the back side, you see the yellow shaded area that we talked about in the work session. That area shaded in yellow at the south end of the property is not owned by the applicant yet. It is proposed to be acquired by the applicant from the city of Hahira, which owns that parcel, which is sort of a elbow-shaped property It goes back to a lift station where it fronts I-75. My understanding is that real estate transaction is pending city council approval this week to acquire a portion of that to give some additional frontage for this property on Union Road. This acquired portion is 50 feet wide. What the applicant is proposing is to use just that to add to lot number 5 for frontage on Union. Also on this drawing, this is from a few months ago, drawn by the applicant's engineer. It shows a different configuration of the private right-of-way. You see it's in a T-shape or hammerhead formation. If that were the subdivision layout plan instead, then all of these lots would have frontage of at least 60 feet onto a roadway, including the larger lot, which is planned to be for a hotel. One thing to be noted, that hammerhead, or the top of the T, on this plan measures to about 200 feet long. That is beyond the minimum that code requires. The fire code requires hammerhead turnarounds to have 60 feet on each leg of it, for a total of 120. This could be reduced a little bit further, but I would imagine it would be site plan driven. But I wanted to point out that a previous version of this subdivision layout did not need a variance. All lots had the minimum frontage of at least 60 feet, including the hotel parcel. So the applicant has decided to go with a different concept for the subdivision layout, which looks in this configuration. The difference is the change of design of the access road or the private road that goes up by the Waffle House into the interior of the property. Variances is something reviewed by zoning board of appeals very often, not by planning commission. Only time you really look at those is with a Hahira variance case, sometimes with a Valdosta or Hahira plan development case, where there are what we call deviations from the development code. Those get weighed in as an overall master plan. This is not a plan development request, it is simply a straight up variance case. Variances are based on hardship. There's got to be a demonstrated legitimate reason for the variance, why everyone else must follow the code, and due to something peculiar with the property or peculiar with the situation, that particular situation does not have to follow the code and is granted some form of relief, sometimes with conditions. In this particular case, we're dealing with 6 acres of vacant land. Nothing is built other than the Waffle House. There is a multitude of ways that this property can be developed as one parcel or multiple parcels. Multiple ways of laying out the subdivision, how each parcel would meet the code in terms of frontage or access. What you're seeing here is one concept that would require a variance. There is nothing that mandates this design. It is simply a proposed design by the applicant. There are many, many possible alternatives. One of which is to go with that previous design of the street from a few months ago. That would negate the need for a variance. Another one is if you look at the 50-foot wide path itself, it goes from the hotel out to the Union Road. That is a proposed parcel. It could be, since the applicant would own all of the adjacent properties there, including that other restaurant parcel. One possibility is to widen that from 50 feet to 60 feet. And as you look at this particular concept drawing, if you can imagine where that red line on the north side of that 50-foot wide path could be extended or relocated 10 feet further north into the landscape area of that other parcel. It would give the 60-foot requirement, and again, no need for variance. I think in PowerPoint, I went ahead and showed this. This is the latest proposed site plan from that restaurant developer that is looking at that proposed parcel. This is from back last month in May. Note on the upper right-hand side of the drawing, this is their drawing, different engineer. This is probably going to need some variances in review itself. On the right, you see that elbow-shaped piece that's owned by Hahira, and the 50-foot wide path going out to Union Road. Okay, the applicant is proposing to acquire that from the city and add it to their site. What the designers of the restaurant site have done, at the moment at least, have designed, or they think the driveway that would run next to them would not utilize that 50-foot wide path. So they have based their site plan around it. So if you do an eyeball measurement of the 50-foot wide area plus what they think is the driveway that adjoins their property to the south, you get about 75 or 80 feet of width there to work with, which is more than enough to give 60 feet of frontage for that acquired property. So it's something that is at least being factored in someone's proposed site plan for that restaurant. There's some other discrepancies there between the boundaries. They're showing some differences in where things are located within the private right-of-way. But I wanted to point that out to you. That's the ones looking at the restaurant have found a way to make it fit. Again, a multitude of varieties. I, for one, would like the idea of having a maximum area for that proposed restaurant. Adding 10 feet out of the landscape area onto a private right-of-way simply as a property line does not change the physical location of the driveway itself, but it does make the parcel comply with the development code. And that's a very easy change for something that's not even platted yet. All of this is conjecture. It is design on paper. Nothing has been approved. There is no existing utilities or easements or trees or drainage facilities on this property that necessitate any adjustments to the geography. It is basically a blank canvas with a multitude of possibilities. So generally, in a case such as this, there is no hardship based on existing conditions or existing peculiarities with the property or the development, and therefore nothing to justify a variance. So with that, staff is recommending denial of the request.
I have a question.
Yes.
You said track 3 meets the frontage, but it has no access.
Correct.
So track 5, I guess the interstate doesn't count as frontage?
Correct. In the development code, we do not recognize as I-75 right-of-way itself as frontage for lot width or lot frontage purposes, but intersecting state routes, like Georgia 122, we do recognize it, but we know that over and above that, there are certain things that interfere, and it's sort of a loophole in the code, but we would recognize track 3.
I mean,
Not that I like that particular loophole, but it is technically.
if it's a dirt road or the interstate, it doesn't matter if there's no entrance. Either way, you're getting out, or you're not getting out.
Not that way.
Not,
Difference
yeah,
between a state highway and the interstate. That is.
Lot 3, I mean, he used the word landlocked, so, I mean,
Right.
you cannot get out to a hard surface road.
Right, right.
And
But
again,
that's what I'm saying, but they're counting the front, it has frontage on, they're counting it as frontage, but there's no driveway.
Correct.
And there's a lot of frontage over here, and nobody's trying to go out that way either, so why wouldn't it be eligible for the same frontage deal?
subdivision 1 has not been approved yet, and 2, this solution here gives track 3 frontage on a private road.
Okay.
So it's also a possibility.
I would just like to hear the property owner tell us why they're putting themselves through this hardship.
So, and plus with the hammerhead application, you're giving 80 foot of relief.
Yeah, the 200 does not have to be 200. It could be as small as 120 and meet the fire code. So if they're worried about the size of the hammerhead, it can shrink. But again, it is property lines. The site plan, that's the conceptual site plan layout between this one and this one is identical. In terms of driveway and parking locations, the only thing that's different is location of proposed property lines.
Gotcha.
Are you, sir, here to speak in favor of this case?
I'm Mark Williams, Williams Investment Company. I reside at 4611, excuse me, Ridgeview Circle and all that stuff. To answer your question, we looked at this particular development in multiple different ways. The Hammerhead got, I think it's parcel number, I believe that's 4, it got it down to about 4/10 of an acre, which is not large enough to do anything. of any significance in a fast service restaurant, quick service restaurant, so that was the reason for looking away from that. Naturally, we feel that through the ingress egress easements, that all parcels have adequate ingress egress. We are under contract on the parcel that's, what's that parcel?
Track 6.
Track 6, excuse me, on track 6. Like I said, we are in the process of acquiring, hopefully with, the city may hire this parcel there that's, he's got the bullet on there. They, naturally keep in mind, we're mostly a hotel development company. Parcel 5, our plan is to, in the future, develop a hotel there. We're naturally using our own capital. It's not a parcel that we intend to sell, but we've sold it many times. But basically, are holding that back, and actually, again, that would be an internal development of our company. We feel, quite frankly, with parcel 5, with 50-foot frontage is more than adequate. And, we respectively, respect the, the staff, respectfully disagree with. We have looked at this so many different ways, so many different times. Actually, we throw things back at, quite frankly, that's Zaxby's. Throw things at Zaxby's kick back on us and this and that and the other. And quite frankly, this all came as a surprise to me that I thought we were all on the same page and in agreement with what we had submitted here in the variance request. And, quite frankly, I learned Saturday that naturally the staff's recommendation was gonna be a denial. That was disappointing to me, quite frankly.
Mike,
But I do respect that.
are y'all prepared to go through with the purchase of that little sliver from the city regardless?
Yes.
I mean, you are, okay.
Yes.
Well, what are you gonna do with 7? I mean, it's only 0.2 acres. If you put another something in there that's small enough there, you're gonna totally block that area there, which.
7 is one on the front.
Seven's
the
Egress,
drive.
That's a drive.
Egress,
Yeah.
actually there's 60
Point,
feet.
0.2 acres there.
Yeah, it's a
I'm sorry?
driveway.
It's 0.2 acres. 0.28 acres.
Oh, that's just basically egress, egress.
Driveway.
That's
That's right.
public road.
That's the main access off of Old Union Road. To basically, ingress, egress to
Yeah.
track 3, 4, 5, as well as the southern ingress, egress.
How is 3 and 5 gonna get to it because it don't touch it?
I'm sorry?
How you gonna exit 3 and 5 because it don't touch it?
Well, it'll be an open parking lot.
Yeah.
Easement.
So you're going through a parking lot to access another business. I don't like that.
But it's adequate ingress, egress.
I mean, look at Adel and where, like, the Burger King and the Captain D's are. I mean, they're all share one big parking lot, but they're just, I don't know, Mike.
Got
maybe
separate owners.
Separate,
Low
yeah,
No,
separate
no,
owners.
no. We did that development.
The
Yeah.
burrito place,
Yeah.
Longhorns,
Yeah.
all that stuff's in the same parking
Yeah.
lot.
Very similar concept.
Is there a, obviously you're in negotiations with Hahira and that extra piece of property, is there a specific reason that you could not acquire an extra 10 feet there and solve your problem that way?
I think with what the city of Hahira has available, that's all we can get is then it's a private property.
Yeah, then it goes
Landowner
into somebody else's.
They own all of it now.
Who, Hahira?
No, the applicant owns track 6 and track 5. They own this whole subdivision except for
Yeah,
the
but he
Waffle
was
House.
talking about
To the
going
south.
beyond
Stretching that
the city
Right.
on.
50-foot to 60-foot going south.
Right, so 50 feet is what's being proposed, could become 60 feet.
Yes.
All it is moving the property line.
And your thing is moving the property line north of Zaxby's, and what the statement,
No, moving the property line 10 feet into what is proposed as track 6.
Yeah,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
yeah, that's what he said.
Is moving the property line north, 10 feet. And what somebody mentioned was, you can't buy 10 feet further south.
Right.
No, because then you're into Miss McDonald's property.
Right.
And moving the property line 10 feet north into the proposed restaurant parcel does not change the site plan of the restaurant.
Okay.
So there's no hardship.
So in other words, you're saying it's not a hardship, there's enough room to do what needs to get done based on.
Right, if you look at the concept, now granted, it's not engineering precision to scale, but close. So imagine, look at that property line that's proposed on the north side of that 50 feet. It is just beyond the curve of the road through there. Moving it 10 feet north, you're up into the landscaping of the restaurant through open land, and it's just a line on paper.
If the condition for approval is placed on this, that Zaxby's plot has to be redrawn to reduce it by 10 feet, you're okay with it?
Well, it depends on which version of Zaxby's you're looking at. The one I showed you on the screen, they're already more than 10 feet. They're giving 25 more feet to the hotel parcel, which is this one. Now, none of this is approved. All of this is going through review process. The subdivision as well as Zaxby's as a private owned property. Different development team, different engineer. It's certainly a real estate transaction with the applicant. That is where, you know, the boundary lines get hardened. But right now, there is no subdivision plat. It's just open land with proposed variations of property lines.
Is this the engineer?
What I'm demonstrating here is where Zaxby's is looking at their site plan boundaries.
And that's my question, if we get 10 foot of relief from Zaxby's through a condition, I mean, your heartburn will go away.
They've already given it.
It can be done anytime, and Zaxby's, on that drawing anyway,
Okay.
is anticipating not getting anything of that 50 feet. They're leaving room for a two-way driveway outside of that 50 feet.
I see that.
Can we hear from the engineer?
Quite frankly, at this point in the deal and where we're at with the progress of Zaxby's and everybody, I'm just concerned that blow the deal.
Yeah, we're not gonna.
No, I know their plan has been changing. This is just the one that got resubmitted in May.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's all papers and lines right
I mean,
now.
actually, this whole process has taken longer than anybody anticipated with holidays and this and that. And so naturally, that's delayed Zaxby's to the point where they have incentives to start construction within a certain time period, finish construction by a certain time period. We went back now and said, well, we got to do this, and then got resubmit. We probably won't have to.
And
The way I look at it, if they're willing to pay for the exception, then they're the ones suffering the hardship.
Like I said, we're the ones that's gonna develop on the parcel that we're asking for the variance on anyway. It's our county. It's our development. Okay, thank y'all.
My name is Clayton Milligan. I'm the engineer for the project on 3998 Inter River Road, Austin, Georgia. Couple things I'll circle back to that have been pointed out. One, on the current Zaxby's plan, and we actually discovered this week when they sent it to us, but they've got some issues that they've got to work out. They're showing their parking within our private right-of-way, extending into the private right-of-way about 10 feet. So they gotta shift their whole site 20 feet back the other way, which then puts the property line back closer. And I've not done the math, so I don't know. I would be concerned if we start moving that property line more into Zaxby's, they're gonna run out of their green space requirements that they're gonna have to meet for their side. So I don't know if that's the case, but that would start eating into their green space requirements. Yes, it's been mentioned a couple of times, and this is kind of where I'm coming from. If you look at both layouts, really, on paper, I mean, what you're gonna see out there once it's built, let's say it was built just like this, what you're gonna see out there won't change, whether it looks like this or whether it looks like the other one. What it does do for us is tracks 4, 5, and 6, so the 3 those are still available. We don't know what's coming. So if we can portion of property that may or may not have been used,
So you talking about tracks 3 and 4, Clayton?
Yeah, 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, I'm sorry, I said that wrong, 4, 5, and 6.
6 is, Zaxby's.
I wrote that
6
down.
is actually, 5 is a hotel.
I was hotel, so it's gotta be 3 and 4.
Sorry.
3, 4, and 5. 3 is up in the corner. of the
They ain't gonna put a restaurant on all 3 of them. I don't think they'll be.
2, 3, 4.
Or it could, yes, those 3, I don't know.
Yeah,
where you
3,
were on
4, and 5.
Okay, so then it's 2, 3, and 4.
There you go.
I'm sorry, 2, 3, and 4. None of those are currently, that's just purely conceptual.
Okay.
So that's open until the next person comes and says, here's what we want to do. So from a developer standpoint, we like to leave things as open as we can. It didn't feel like a huge ask on our side, going from 60 feet down to 50 feet when we found out this, that City of Hahira was willing to let us purchase this property. That is, my understanding, supposed to be voted on. They put it out for public bid. Mr. Williams was the only one who put a bid in, so his bid is gonna be voted on Thursday at the city council meeting.
So if that doesn't get approved, you're gonna have to do something.
Right, if that doesn't get approved, I mean, everything's contingent on that, so the city will have to vote on that prior to, voting on this.
They've got a time frame they've got to meet. Their buyers are gonna, look, you can't jerk people around for 6 months while you're thinking about something. These people are ready to move,
Right.
you know? And that's what people don't understand, is that they will move on and go somewhere else.
That's right. And I just wanna say, Mike, when I was 14 years old, I worked for your daddy at the Family World in Cecil. And I just do appreciate everything y'all done for the Cook County and that North Lowndes County area, in trying to bring us some amenities, because that's what everybody wants up there, so I just appreciate that. And
Thank you so much for
that.
saying that.
There were no child work laws.
There were no labor laws, I worked past 9 o'clock, my mom and daddy had to pick me up after my shift was over.
I would like to add too, I know this is the way interstate frontage is always interpreted, it's, yes, it's public right of way frontage, but it's not, you can't access it. In this case, it's actually limited access goes, what they call limited access, even though it's along 122, it goes all the way around the front.
Yeah.
So it's almost a technicality to me. If we're gonna call that technical access there, then, I mean, I think the on-ramp should be considered technical access, so that we technically have public road frontage, even though we can't use any of it. So to me, that's somewhat of a hardship for this piece of property. It's surrounded on 2 sides by limited access. It doesn't allow, it's public road frontage, but it doesn't allow us to have access on it. So that's, we, tried to come up with the most advantageous way to lay this out and still.
So let me ask you this, understanding that, you know, one, this is conceptual. 2, where it comes to the conversation, I'm just gonna look at the Hammerhead plan, for example. With that particular layout, again, conceptual understanding, if somebody did come and purchase lots 2, 3, and 4, even with that particular layout, you could reduce 40 feet on either side and still have a hammerhead layout with small teeth, and you would still have and meet the requirements. So again, the kind of the headache of this whole variance meeting would be unnecessary. It's like totally unnecessary.
Right, and it's just, I guess, not knowing what might come, but yes, I guess that eats into more, it's gonna impact whatever layout a potential developer would have in that corner.
And there was some speculation as to why you guys eliminated the hammerhead, but now that you've said that, that makes a lot of sense to me, why you would get rid of it.
Also might add, in the hammerhead, it gets into 2 parking places of the hotel development, and we've got minimum requirements naturally with that now in regards to parking mechanics and things of that nature.
And so if you reduce the size of the hammerhead, which you have room to do, so if you reduce the size of the hammerhead, that gives you, your parking spaces are roughly 10 feet wide. If you reduce the size of the hammerhead by 40 feet, which you have on either side, you're gonna actually give yourself 4 additional parking spaces. So based on this particular layout, and we were told it's 200 feet, okay, and what's required is 120 feet, so that's 80 feet. We take 80 feet, divide that by 2, we've got 40 feet. That gives you 40 feet on one side, side that you can bring in, and so that would give you 4 parking spots, easy, at least.
But it still gets you to a lot, I forget lot number there, at the end of the hammerhead, it makes that lot, quite frankly, so small that it's realistically not unmarketable.
I mean, for any modern franchise, anything less than 1.15 acres is pretty much unusable. I mean, 100
That would do
acres,
exactly
you've
about
got
what
your
it is, but I just
coffee
don't know
shops
where-
or.
We looked at
something.
Well, this right here's only, what's that for?
I
At
mean,
this point, I don't really wanna do anything to further delay this.
You said that require 3 or 4 to make something to go there, right? I get it, that's standard size. I get it. I get it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Close,
All right, thanks, sir. We're closing the, public, or we're closing the floor.
In support of.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Is there anyone here that would like to speak against this case? There being none, now we will close the public hearing and any further questions for staff? Tommy?
we're sitting here saying that the I-75, I just want clarification here now. We're saying the I-75 and the front side going on to 122 is not going to be used. And there's nothing on the south other than where it's gonna be coming into the motel is gonna be used. The only access is straight in. If you're gonna use that whole piece up there, I can understand with the one, that little entrance coming in there. But if it don't work out that way and it's not set up, you know, how you gonna get in and out of there? That's my biggest concern. You got to go through.
Well, they've got two means to get
Yeah,
this.
that's the second,
50 foot is the second.
that's the second one, they require the 50-foot.
On the bottom, but that's coming all the way around, right?
Well, I think that's just gonna be mainly for the motel, isn't it?
I would assume that people, when they turn into there, they're gonna turn in the first entrance
Right.
and then drive back to the hotel
That's-
anyway. Yeah, that's what I would do.
I would assume that too.
But, I mean, it's really just a technicality, because the front lot has no access, but that's okay. But the side, the one on 75 doesn't have access, but it doesn't have the frontage that it requires, but the other one has the frontage, even though it has, I think.
It's not to the,
And the hammerhead, regardless of the frontage, the layout's the same.
It's not
If there's a
gonna look
hammerhead
different
there or
either.
not,
Yeah.
there's still gonna be the same amount of space there.
exactly,
So,
it's not gonna look different.
anyway,
Let's move
I've
on.
said all I need to say. Are we going to, I'll accept the motion.
I will, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
HA-2026-01, I make a motion that we accept, this and offer our, recommendation of approval to, City Council.
I'll second it, Steve.
We have a second. All in favor?